We're here today to announce coordinated, wide-ranging actions to disrupt the malicious cyber activities of a group commonly referred to as Advanced Persistent Threat 41, or APT 41, as well as a related international criminal enterprise involving APT 41 actors. Cybersecurity experts have referred to APT 41's activities as one of the broadest campaigns by Chinese cyber espionage actors in recent years. We are announcing today multiple efforts to disrupt these activities. First and foremost is that we have unsealed 3 indictments that collectively charge 5 Chinese nationals with computer hacking and charge 2 Malaysian nationals for helping some of those hackers target victims and sell the fruits of their hacking. Our charges allege 2 distinct categories of criminal conduct. First, as the core of APT 41's computer hacking, the Chinese defendants targeted well over 100 victims worldwide in a variety of industries and sectors that are sadly part of the standard target list for Chinese hackers. These criminal acts were turbocharged by a sophisticated technique referred to as a supply chain attack, in which the Chinese hackers compromised software that providers around the world had and modified the provider's code to install backdoors that enabled further hacks against the software provider's customers. Second, and as an additional method of making money, several of the Chinese defendants compromised the networks of video game companies worldwide. That's a billion-dollar industry, and defrauded them of in-game resources. 2 of the Chinese defendants stand accused with 2 Malaysian defendants of selling those resources on the black market through their illicit website. Now, in addition to these unsealed indictments, I'm pleased to announce that through the cooperation of the Malaysian law enforcement authorities, the 2 Malaysian defendants were arrested on Sunday evening and now face extradition proceedings. So we have the indictments and 2 arrests. Identifying those responsible and holding them account is our primary mission. But criminal investigation and prosecution alone are not enough to make the internet safer. So there's a third part of today's announcement. Specifically, in addition to these criminal charges and the 2 arrests, the Department of Justice and the FBI have been working with 7 private sector partners, including Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Verizon Media, and others, to identify and neutralize the computer infrastructure that APT 41 uses to conduct its crimes, its virtual private servers, malware, malicious domains, and other tools. We have done this through a combination of public and private actions, including technical measures to block this threat actor from accessing victims' computer systems, issuing a public safety announcement outlining their tactics, techniques, and procedures to aid network defenders, and by taking control of or otherwise disabling their accounts pursuant to court orders and terms of service violations. The bottom line is that we have used every tool at the department's disposal to disrupt these APT 41 activities. Now, ideally, I would be thanking Chinese law enforcement authorities for their cooperation in the matter, and the 5 Chinese hackers would now be in custody awaiting trial. Unfortunately, the record of recent years tells us that the Chinese Communist Party has a demonstrated history of choosing a different path, that of making China safe for their own cyber criminals, as long as they help with its goals of stealing intellectual property and stifling freedom. Less than 2 months ago, Assistant Attorney General Demers was at this podium to announce an indictment in another hacking case, in which the Chinese government tolerated the defendants' criminal activity because those defendants were willing to work on behalf of the Chinese intelligence services. And here we are again. In this case, one of the Chinese defendants is accused of boasting to a colleague that he was, quote, very close to the Ministry of State Security and would be protected, quote, unless something very big happens. The hacker and his associates agreed not to, quote, touch domestic stuff anymore. We know the Chinese authorities to be at least as able as the law enforcement authorities here and in like-minded states to enforce laws against computer intrusions, but they don't do so. But know this, no country can be respected as a global leader while paying only lip service to the rule of law and without taking steps to disrupt brazen criminal acts like this. No responsible government knowingly shelters cyber criminals that target victims worldwide in acts of rank theft. Responsible nations not only condemn criminal conduct, they root it out and punish it. Responsible nations disavow criminals within their borders and bring them to justice. Responsible nations work with other countries' law enforcement authorities to ensure that justice is served in a court of law. The PRC has done none of these things. So you can take 3 additional observations from this conference today. First, the Chinese government has the power to help stop crimes like this. Second, the Chinese government has made a deliberate choice to allow its citizens to commit computer intrusions and attacks around the world, because these actors will also help the PRC. But third, the Department of Justice will do everything it can to disrupt these crimes by exposing the techniques, tactics, and procedures used by APT 41, by enabling the private sector to disable them, and by working with our law enforcement colleagues all around the globe to arrest the hackers when we can, as with the 2 today. We appreciate our partnerships with the private sector, as I said, in this instance, including Microsoft, Facebook, Google, and Verizon Media, and our partnerships with foreign law enforcement partners who have been a force multiplier in these fights against international criminals. Such partnerships send a clear message that governments and the private sector are prepared to work together to defend against significant cyber threats. Today, on top of all the measures I've mentioned already, we are exposing this threat to the international community, to cybersecurity experts, and to the greater public. And we will never stop pursuing the individuals responsible for these alleged criminal acts here and abroad and anywhere they travel.